Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a new episode of One Mic where I watch shit so you don't have to. And I just finished watching the third episode of season 4 of FX's Snowfall. I gotta say, I really like where Snowfall's going this season. One of the main issues that I had, if you watched the video for episodes 1 and 2, was that I thought the Gustavo, Teddy, Lucia storyline was always treated as, second class. It felt like they didn't particularly have anything interesting for that. It was never very compelling. I always felt it was kind of boring. Like whenever we went to that side of the story, it was kind of like, oh, okay, well, here we go. I don't really need to pay attention to this. I don't really want to, but and then I thought it was edited weird. I felt like every time we cut to their side of the story, that I always had to recalibrate myself. Like, where are we at right now? What country is he in? And it was like and I even mentioned this in the last video, he went from one location to another in different countries in 3 consecutive scenes. So it's like, I'm thinking like, okay, where are they at now? Where are they at now? But it looks like they've kind of decided to put some work into that aspect of the storyline and make it more interesting. I really liked what they did with that storyline at the toward the back half of episode 2 and in the entirety of this episode. I kind of look at this episode as a episode of continued bad decisions. I talked about in the first with the first 2 episodes, Franklin was making a ton of bad decisions. That didn't change. Franklin's decision to essentially threaten Officer Nix. I mean, if you're a drug dealer, why are you threatening the police? Like, you know that they either 1, have it out for you, or 2, they are choosing to take it easy on you because you're paying them off. Either way, pissing them off is not a good idea. And Franklin ends up seeing that that wasn't a good idea when Officer Nix arrests, essentially kidnaps, for the most part, Franklin's mom, and roughs her up a little bit. I mean, he slammed the brakes and she hit her head on the gate that's in between the front and the rear of a cop car, leaving a pretty big mark on her forehead. And then he takes her to Andre's grave, tells her, Franklin killed him. Like, yeah, no shit, we know this. And he kind of like throws her into a tree. For a second, I thought I didn't think he'd kill her, but I thought he was going to rough her up a little bit more than what he did. And when he hit her head on the tree, I thought it was going to leave a bit bigger of a mark, or maybe open her up, get some bleeding going, so something that would rile Franklin up even more. But the point was made. So Franklin immediately opened up the episode with a bad decision, and before the episode was over, he was made to pay for that decision. And I think that's only going to continue to escalate. We had... I'll talk about this real estate deal that Franklin's working on in a moment, but one of the positives coming out of that deal was this guy, Paul Davis, that he's working with, this real estate developer. I think Sissy mentioned in the first or second episode that he has ties with the mayor, and they were able to use that leverage to get Officer Nix essentially demoted. And by no means do I think that is the end of the Officer Nix aspect of this storyline. So I'm curious to see where, like, right now it looks like Nix is completely off the board. Like, Franklin doesn't have to worry about him at all, and I do not think that's going to be the case. Maybe he'll end up working with that reporter. I think her name is Irene. Maybe he'll end up working with her, and that'll help. That not help, but that will facilitate things getting worse for Franklin. It's very clear that this reporter is going to keep digging until she gets something that's pretty damning for Franklin. She's already being led in the right direction, so we'll see where that goes. But I wonder if that's going to tie in with the Nix storyline, because Nix, I refuse to believe that Nix is going anywhere. But I did like the fact that, Franklin said what he said at the start, Nix retaliated, and Franklin essentially one-upped him and, said, I got the connections now to make life really bad for you. So I like that aspect of it, but I also like Nick's presence, just because I like that he seems like a real piece of shit. One of those guys who has no qualms about breaking the law. And I think that aids in the tension in Franklin's storyline when you have a cop that is essentially, or at least was essentially, on his payroll, who you still can't trust. So I like what they did there. So back to that real estate deal. I kind of like the way they played this out throughout the course of the episode, because most of this episode I wasn't really sure what Franklin and Sissy were attempting to accomplish. And I knew that, I don't want to say I knew, I was pretty confident that by the end of the episode, I would have a pretty clear picture of what was going on, and I did. But, I like when shows do that, when they give you information and they give you no idea what this information is for. Sometimes they don't even tell you who the players are and whatever information they're giving you. And then toward the end of the episode, they tie it in to the rest of what you're familiar with. And they did that in this episode, and I thought that was pretty cool. But long story short, it looks like in order to curry favor with this Davis guy, Franklin, told people who trusted him, I guess these are family friends who own this bookstore, that he would essentially buy the bookstore from them with him and his mother. They would buy this bookstore from them, allowing them to stay afloat and get the city off their back. And that would be it. Like, I'll buy it. You'll be cool. You don't have to worry about them. And you continue to do your thing. Turns out that Franklin was being a supreme piece of shit, as was Sissy. And this was all a lie, which Franklin's father was not on board with. This was all a lie. They bought the property. They sold it to Paul Davis. And now they plan on giving these people some other property to be in. But they've been in this bookstore for decades. I think he said 30 years. And they ended with a big fuck you, Franklin. And you can't be mad at him because, oh, fuck him, man. That was a really dirty move. But it did work out for Franklin. It helped him get Nix demoted. But and it will help him with, I guess, future political connections. It does seem like, to a degree, Sissy wants to go straight. She still plans on apparently being a piece of shit about it, but hey, she's not selling drugs and killing people. Do I think this is going to get Franklin out of the game? Absolutely not. I still believe that something will happen to Leon, and that will further pull Franklin back in, kind of like very, very Godfather 3-ish. And let's see if it plays out that way, because that was the vibe I got in the first two episodes, but especially in the interactions between Franklin and Leon, that Franklin's going to try to get out. And just like Godfather 3, whenever as soon as I try to get out, they pull me back in. And I feel like that's what's going to happen. And it's probably going to revolve around Leon. Other bad decisions in this episode. And I really like, by the way, these bad decisions. I don't like them in the sense of characters making stupid choices, but these are choices that seem realistic within this world for these characters that I know just from watching film and television that are going to end poorly for these characters. But another bad decision and they did, this was just like a drop in the bucket, like just a little something, just a little taste of where we're going here. They threw out in the first two episodes a lack of trust for Manboy, and I obviously he should not be trusted. But one line, the only time we see him in the episode, he actually tried to sow distrust between Franklin's aunt and uncle and Franklin. And you could see on Jerome's face, he was not a fan of that. But you don't give that scene, this one scene that lasts 20, 30 seconds, that ends with him saying, ends with him kind of trying to say, like, hey, your boy Franklin out here fucking up. Like, you don't put that scene in there without having it there to build towards something bigger. So either it's going to be him trying to separate Franklin from his aunt and uncle, or it's going to be a situation where they turn around and tell Franklin, yo, he's over here trying to throw you under the bus, and now they have to go after him, and things get out of hand. So either way, bad decision by I think Drew is his real name. They call him Manboy, whatever. Bad decision by him that I'm sure is going to come back around in a way that he's not going to like, because he's going to have to, if this plays out the way I'm expecting it to be, with him trying to drive a wedge between Franklin and his family, that's not going to end well for him. So, but it might end poorly for other people as well, or at least maybe not end, but could have some poor consequences for other people involved as well. And then the last bad decision, which ultimately did work out, but I'm wondering how it's going to continue, because like I mentioned at the top of the video, they have found a way to make the Gustavo and Teddy storyline compelling. I really like this crooked sheriff out of Tijuana. This whole guy trying to like stiff arm them for a ridiculous amount of money to allow them to continue to do business. And like I mentioned in the last video, into episode 2, ends with Gustavo's brother and wife dead and their kids missing. And I thought, well, that's a great fucking way to make this storyline interesting. And we open up this episode and Gustavo's like, okay, I'm ready to fuck shit up. Let me go find these people. We got to kill these people. Let's make it happen. And Teddy's like, slow down, don't do anything stupid. And Gustavo decides he's going to do something stupid anyway. So we see Gustavo get kidnapped. We don't know what's going on. Turns out it's this agency called DFS. I did a little research onto this agency. Very, very, very little research, by the way. But essentially, it sounded to me from what I read that this was essentially Mexico's CIA. It was dissolved in 1985, but it was more kind of like blended into like a new organization. I think it was called like CISEN or something like that, which to my understanding is still more or less like a Mexican CIA, maybe FBI, I don't know, but a government intelligence agency. So Teddy calls them, has them pick up Gustavo, and then Teddy essentially shares like, yeah, I'm with the CIA, and now guess what, buddy, you are too. And then the way it plays out is that essentially they talk to the CIA and they devise a plan to get this sheriff. They got to drive him into this hideaway, and Gustavo escalates things. Ultimately they do drive him into this hideaway, and then they find him and they kill him. And I expected us to eventually arrive at this place where they get revenge on this guy, but I expected this to be drawn out for several episodes. I didn't expect them to meet this character in episode 1 or 2. I can't remember where we meet him at. And then he's dead at the end of episode 3. I didn't think it was going to move that fast, but I like that. And I like if they can maintain that fast pace on the Teddy Gustavo storyline while continuing to, maintain interest and make sure that, it somehow bleeds into the Franklin storyline. I think they can find a way to actually make this a better overall show. Because, you don't want to have any weaknesses where you're looking like, okay, I don't like this entire section of story, right? But if they can continue to keep this aspect of the story this compelling, this could be easily the best season of Snowfall if they can pull that off. Because the Franklin stuff is always great, right? That stuff's always good. That's always compelling. Everybody on that side of things does awesome acting work. Everything's great over there. You make the Teddy Gustavo stuff compelling, you've got a top level show on your hands. So really looking forward to see how that plays out. I still don't know where these kids are, but and that can maybe end up being how they continue to stretch this out. But they're doing a really great job with making that interesting. I didn't think this episode was edited poorly in the Teddy Gustavo range. It was pretty straightforward. It's like, okay, you were kidnapped. It's this Mexican CIA group. Now we meet with them. Now we execute our plan. Gustavo kind of did his own thing for a second there, but everything went as it was supposed to, which was actually kind of surprising. I figured things were going to go wrong. So with only 3 episodes in, though, there's so much room for things to go wrong. But really big thumbs up on this 3rd episode. I thought it was really interesting, really compelling. Franklin's somehow did nothing with drugs in this episode and was like an even bigger piece of shit somehow. I don't know, but really great stuff, really compelling. So I really like where Snowfall's heading. Like this could make out to be their best season if they can continue to head things in the direction that they're heading. And then one last note, we see Wanda again. This is the only time we see Leon in the episode as well. Just one quick scene. And man, Wanda she's fucked up, man. Like complete total junkie, like rock bottom. And then we see Wanda again and her like teeth are falling out and shit. Like, I don't know what the purpose of showing us how bad Wanda has gotten, how that's going to play out throughout the course of the season, or if that's going to have an effect on Leon, and if so, what effect it'll have. But yeah, she looked rough. So 2 thumbs up to their makeup department on that one, man. Man, she looked rough. So great episode. I'll see you guys next week. Like I said, I'm going to be covering this every week. So every Thursday, you'll find me here talking about the latest episode of Snowfall. So until then, peace.